In 1943, a tin miner in central Nigeria struck his shovel into the earth and unearthed a face staring back at him from 2,500 years in the past. This wasn't just any artifact. This terracotta head would rewrite everything we thought we knew about ancient Africa. It would prove that while Europe was still emerging from the Bronze Age, Africans in Nigeria were creating some of the most sophisticated art the ancient world had ever seen. But here's what makes this discovery truly haunting: we still don't know who these people were. We don't know what language they spoke. We don't know why they disappeared. And we don't know how a civilization that mastered ironworking, created stunning art, and built a complex society, simply vanished without a trace. This is the story of the Nok culture. The civilization that time forgot. The mystery buried beneath Nigerian soil. And the archaeological puzzle that continues to baffle scientists to this very day. I'm here to take you back to ancient Africa. Let me paint you a picture of West Africa around 1000 BC. That's roughly 3,000 years ago. The world as we know it was very different. The Great Pyramids of Egypt were already ancient, built over 1,000 years earlier. In the Middle East, the Assyrian Empire was rising to power. In China, the Shou dynasty was flourishing. And in Greece, Homer was composing the Iliad and the Odyssey. But in the heart of what we now call Nigeria, in the Jos Plateau region of central Nigeria, something extraordinary was happening. Something that wouldn't be discovered for nearly 3,000 years. A civilization was emerging. A people we now call the Nok culture, named after the small village where their artifacts were first discovered. And these people were about to achieve something remarkable, something that would place them among the most advanced societies of their time. They were mastering iron, creating art that rivals anything produced in the ancient world, building a society that would span over 1,500 years, longer than the Roman Empire, longer than most civilizations in human history. And yet, if you ask most people about ancient African civilizations, they'll mention Egypt, maybe Ethiopia, perhaps Great Zimbabwe. But the Nok, almost no one knows their name. That changes today. Let's go back to that fateful day in 1943. World War II was raging across the globe. But in a small village in Nigeria called Nok, a different kind of discovery was about to be made. A British-trained Nigerian archaeologist named Bernard Fagg was working in the region. Tin mining was a major industry in the Jos Plateau, and miners were constantly digging deep into the earth. And occasionally, they would find things. Strange objects. Ancient objects. One miner brought Fagg a terracotta head. But this wasn't just any pottery. This was a life-sized human head, sculpted with extraordinary skill. The eyes were distinctive, triangular, almond-shaped, with a piercing gaze that seemed to look right through you. The hairstyle was elaborate, showing intricate braiding and detail. The expression was serene, almost regal. Fagg immediately recognized this was something special. Something ancient. Something that shouldn't exist according to the prevailing theories about African history at the time. You see, in 1943, the colonial mindset still dominated archaeology. Many European scholars believed that advanced African civilizations were either influenced by outsiders or were anomalies. The idea that Africans could independently develop sophisticated art, technology, and culture was uncomfortable for many to accept. But here was the evidence, literally pulled from the earth. And as more discoveries were made, the picture became clearer and more astounding. Over the following decades, more terracotta figures emerged from the ground. Not just heads, but full figures. Animals. Humans in various poses. Each piece was remarkable in its artistry and craftsmanship. Bernard Fagg dedicated much of his career to studying the Nok culture. He conducted excavations throughout the region. He documented hundreds of artifacts. He carbon dated samples and established a timeline. And what he discovered shocked the archaeological world. The carbon dating results came back, and they revealed something extraordinary. The Nok culture existed from approximately 1000 BC to 300 CE. That's over 1,500 years of continuous civilization. To put that in perspective, the Nok culture began around the same time as King Solomon's reign in ancient Israel. They were creating terracotta sculptures while the Greeks were still developing their archaic art style. They mastered iron smelting before most of Europe. Their civilization lasted longer than the entire span of the Roman Empire from its founding to its fall. 1,500 years. Think about that. The United States has only existed for about 250 years. The British Empire at its height lasted about 300 years. But the Nok culture persisted for 1.5 millennia. But here's what makes the Nok truly exceptional in African history. They represent one of the earliest instances of iron smelting south of the Sahara Desert. And this is where things get really interesting. You see, in most parts of the world, civilizations progress through what archaeologists call the three-age system: the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and then the Iron Age. Each stage represented advances in metallurgy and technology. But the Nok culture, they appear to have skipped the Bronze Age entirely. They went straight from stone tools to iron tools. This is extremely rare in human history. How did they do it? Did they develop ironworking independently? Or did they learn it from North African or Middle Eastern traders who crossed the Sahara? This is one of the great debates in African archaeology, and we still don't have a definitive answer. What we do know is that by around 500 BC, the Nok people were definitely working with iron. They were creating furnaces capable of reaching temperatures over 1,200 degrees Celsius, hot enough to smelt iron ore. They were forging tools, weapons, and implements that gave them a tremendous advantage over neighboring peoples who were still using stone tools. And they were doing this in sub-Saharan Africa, at a time when most of Europe was still in the Bronze Age or just beginning to work with iron. Now, let's talk about what the Nok culture is most famous for: their terracotta sculptures. These aren't crude figurines or simple pottery. These are sophisticated works of art that demonstrate an advanced understanding of human anatomy, proportion, and artistic expression. The terracotta heads range in size from just a few centimeters to life-size and beyond. Some heads are nearly 50 centimeters tall. They depict both men and women, with elaborate hairstyles, jewelry, and decorative elements. Let me describe what makes these sculptures so distinctive, so uniquely Nok. First, the eyes. Almost all Nok sculptures share a characteristic shape: triangular, almond-shaped, or D-shaped. The pupils are usually pierced holes, which creates a haunting, penetrating gaze. Some scholars believe these holes served a practical purpose, allowing steam to escape during the firing process. Others think they had ritual or symbolic significance. Second, the hairstyles. The Nok people clearly took great pride in their hair. The sculptures show incredibly elaborate hairstyles, braids, buns, crests, and intricate patterns. Some hairstyles are so complex that modern hairstylists have struggled to replicate them. This tells us something important: personal appearance and grooming were significant in Nok society. Third, the jewelry and adornments. Many figures wear necklaces, bracelets, anklets, and other decorations. Some have elaborate beaded jewelry. Others wear what appear to be ceremonial items, perhaps marks of rank or status. Fourth, the expressions and poses. The figures aren't static or emotionless. Some appear contemplative. Others look joyful or serene. Some full-body sculptures show people sitting, kneeling, or standing in various poses. Some hold objects, tools, weapons, or ritual items. And fifth, the technical skill. Creating these sculptures required extraordinary expertise. The clay had to be carefully prepared and tempered. The sculptures had to be hollow to prevent cracking during firing, and many pieces show evidence of careful interior support structures. The firing process had to be precisely controlled. One mistake and months of work would shatter or crumble. These weren't mass-produced trinkets. Each sculpture was a unique work of art, created by skilled artisans who had spent years mastering their craft. But here's what's truly fascinating: we don't know what these sculptures were for. Were they portraits of real people? Representations of ancestors? Deities or spirits? Grave markers? Decorative art? Educational tools? We simply don't know. What we do know is that they required significant resources to create. Clay had to be sourced and prepared. Specialized kilns had to be built. Firewood had to be gathered, lots of it. Artisans had to be trained and supported while they worked. This tells us that Nok society had reached a level of development where not everyone had to focus solely on survival. There was surplus food, surplus time, and surplus resources to dedicate to art and culture. That's the mark of a sophisticated civilization. Now let's talk about the other major achievement of the Nok culture: their mastery of iron. Iron working is not easy. It's not something you stumble upon by accident. It requires specific knowledge, specialized equipment, and careful control of complex chemical processes. First, you need iron ore. Fortunately, the Jos Plateau region where the Nok lived is rich in iron deposits. But raw iron ore is useless, it's just rock containing iron compounds. To extract pure iron, you need to smelt it. This means heating the ore to extremely high temperatures, around 1200 to 1500 degrees Celsius, in the presence of carbon monoxide, which acts as a reducing agent. The carbon monoxide bonds with the oxygen in the iron ore, leaving behind molten iron. This requires building a furnace, not just a fire pit, but a sophisticated structure that can maintain high temperatures and control airflow. Archaeological evidence shows that the Nok people built clay furnaces, sometimes using termite mounds as natural blast furnaces because of their excellent heat retention properties. They would stack alternating layers of iron ore, charcoal, and flux materials inside the furnace. Then they would heat it for hours, sometimes days, maintaining a constant temperature and airflow. Bellows, likely made from animal skins, would be pumped continuously to force air into the furnace, increasing the temperature. Eventually, the iron would begin to melt and separate from the slag, the waste rock material. The molten iron would collect at the bottom of the furnace, where it could be extracted and worked. But the process wasn't over. Iron straight from the furnace is actually relatively soft and brittle. To make it useful, it has to be forged, repeatedly heated and hammered to remove impurities, align the grain structure, and shape it into tools or weapons. The Nok people mastered all of this. And the impact was revolutionary. With iron tools, they could clear forests more efficiently. They could cultivate more land. They could create more effective weapons for hunting and defense. They could build more substantial structures. Iron changed everything. And here's something crucial to understand: ironworking knowledge is cumulative and technical. You can't just figure it out on your own by watching. Someone has to teach you the specific temperatures, techniques, or preparation methods, and forging processes. It's generational knowledge, passed from master to apprentice. This means the Nok culture had established teaching systems, apprenticeship structures, and knowledge preservation methods. They had specialized craftspeople, what we might call professional blacksmiths, who dedicated their lives to this craft. This is yet another sign of social complexity and development. So we know the Nok people created beautiful art and mastered ironworking. But what was daily life actually like for an ordinary person in Nok society? Unfortunately, we have more questions than answers. Unlike civilizations that left written records, the Nok left no text, no inscriptions, no written language that we've discovered. Everything we know comes from archaeological evidence, objects, remains, and the traces of their settlements. But we can piece together some clues. Settlement patterns: the Nok culture wasn't a single city or kingdom. Instead, it appears to have been a network of villages and settlements spread across the Jos Plateau and surrounding regions. This area covers roughly 78,000 square kilometers, about the size of Ireland or South Carolina. The settlements were typically located near rivers or streams, essential for agriculture, drinking water, and clay for pottery. Houses were likely constructed from wood, clay, and thatch, organic materials that have long since decomposed, leaving few traces. Agriculture: the Nok people were farmers. The region's fertile soil and reliable rainfall made agriculture possible. They likely grew sorghum, millet, yams, and other crops. They may have kept domesticated animals, goats, sheep, and cattle. The iron tools they developed would have made farming much more efficient. Iron hoes could break ground more effectively than stone tools. Iron axes could clear forest. Iron sickles could harvest crops. Social structure: the elaborate terracotta sculptures suggest a society with social hierarchy. Some figures wear more jewelry and elaborate clothing than others. Some poses suggest authority or status. There were clearly specialized craftspeople, sculptors, blacksmiths, potters. These specialists would have been supported by the agricultural surplus produced by farmers. There may have been chiefs or leaders. There may have been priests or religious specialists. The exact structure remains unknown, but the evidence points to a complex, stratified society. Trade: the Nok people didn't exist in isolation. Archaeological evidence shows they traded with neighboring regions. They acquired materials not found locally, certain types of stone for grinding tools, shells from distant rivers, perhaps metals from other areas. This means they had economic systems, trade routes, and connections with other peoples. They were part of a broader West African network of exchange and interaction. Religion and belief: the terracotta figures themselves provide our only hints about Nok religious beliefs. Some scholars believe the sculptures had ritual or religious significance. Perhaps they were used in ancestor veneration. Perhaps they represented spirits or deities. Perhaps they were created for burial rituals or life cycle ceremonies. We simply don't know. But the investment of time and resources in creating these figures suggests they held deep meaning for the Nok people. Art and expression. Clearly, art was important in Nok culture. The sculptures show not just technical skill but creative expression. Each piece is individual, suggesting artists had freedom to interpret and create rather than simply following rigid templates. Music probably played a role too, though instruments rarely survive in the archaeological record. Dance, storytelling, oral traditions, all the cultural elements we see in human societies likely existed. The Nok people were not primitive or simple. They were complex, creative, technologically advanced people living full lives in their communities. Now we come to the heart of the Nok mystery, all the things we still don't understand. Mystery number 1, language. We don't know what language the Nok people spoke. Without written records, linguistic evidence has been lost to time. Were they the ancestors of modern Nigerian ethnic groups? Did they speak languages related to current Benue Congo or Chadic languages? We can only speculate. Mystery number 2, origins. Where did the Nok culture come from? Did they migrate from somewhere else, bringing ironworking knowledge with them? Or did they develop in place, their culture emerging from earlier local populations? The archaeological record doesn't give us clear answers. Some scholars point to similarities with earlier Stone Age cultures in the region. Others suggest possible connections with civilizations to the north, across the Sahara. But definitive evidence remains elusive. Mystery number 3, political organization. Was there a Nok kingdom? A confederation of villages? Independent settlements sharing a common culture? We don't know. There's no evidence of a central capital, palace complexes, or monumental architecture that would indicate a unified state. Yet the cultural consistency across such a large region, the distinctive art style, the ironworking techniques, the pottery traditions, suggest some form of cultural unity or regular interaction. Mystery number 4, why terracotta? The Nok people clearly had advanced metallurgical skills. They could work iron. So why did they create their greatest artworks in clay rather than metal? Metal sculptures would have been more durable and equally impressive. Perhaps clay held special significance. Perhaps metal was too valuable to use for art. Perhaps terracotta allowed for larger, more expressive sculptures. Or perhaps there's a reason we haven't even considered yet. Mystery number 5, the relationship with other cultures. How did the Nok culture interact with neighboring peoples? Were they traders, warriors, missionaries of technology? Did they teach ironworking to others, or learn it from someone else? There are tantalizing hints of cultural connections. Some scholars see similarities between Nok art and later art styles in Nigeria, the Ife culture, the Benin culture. Were these direct descendants? Influenced neighbors? Or coincidental similarities? Mystery number 6, gender and society. Both male and female figures are depicted in Nok art, sometimes with equal elaboration and apparent status. What does this tell us about gender roles? Were women and men more equal than in many ancient societies? Or are we reading too much into artistic representations? Some female figures appear pregnant. Others hold children. What was the role of motherhood and family in Nok society? These questions remain unanswered. And now we come to perhaps the greatest mystery of all, what happened to the Nok culture? Around 300 CE, the distinctive Nok art style disappears from the archaeological record. The terracotta sculptures stop being made. The cultural markers that defined the Nok for over a millennium simply vanish. But why? Theory number 1: gradual cultural change. Perhaps the Nok culture didn't disappear at all. Perhaps it simply evolved and transformed into something else. Cultures aren't static, they change, adapt, and merge with neighboring cultures. Maybe the Nok people's descendants are still in Nigeria, their culture having gradually transformed over centuries into the modern ethnic groups we see today. Theory number 2: environmental change. Climate change could have played a role. Around 300 CE, some evidence suggests environmental shifts in West Africa. Changing rainfall patterns, soil degradation, or resource depletion could have forced populations to migrate or adapt in ways that disrupted traditional cultural practices. When survival becomes difficult, artistic traditions and specialized crafts are often the first things to go. Theory number 3: conflict and displacement. Perhaps warfare or invasion disrupted Nok society. New peoples migrating into the region could have displaced the Nok, conquered them, or absorbed them. The spread of new technologies, religions, or political systems could have overwhelmed traditional Nok culture. Theory number 4: disease or catastrophe. Epidemic disease, natural disasters, or other catastrophic events could have devastated the population. Though we have no direct evidence of this, history shows that civilizations can be profoundly disrupted by events like plague, drought, or volcanic eruptions affecting climate. Theory number 5: loss of specialized knowledge. If the number of skilled artisans and craftspeople dwindled through death, migration, or social disruption, the complex knowledge needed to create the distinctive Nok artworks could have been lost. Specialized skills like advanced pottery and ironworking require years of training. If that training chain breaks, the knowledge can disappear in a single generation. The truth: we simply don't know. And that's what makes the Nok culture so hauntingly mysterious. A civilization that lasted 1,500 years, that created some of ancient Africa's finest art, that mastered advanced metallurgy, simply faded away, leaving us only fragments to puzzle over. Today, Nok terracotta sculptures are considered among the greatest treasures of African art. Museums around the world, in Nigeria, Europe, and America, display them as masterpieces of ancient creativity. But the story of these artifacts in modern times has its own dark chapters. For decades, Nok sites have been looted by treasure hunters seeking sculptures to sell on the international art market. A single Nok head can sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars to private collectors. This looting has destroyed irreplaceable archaeological context, the information about where objects were found, what they were found with, and how they relate to their surroundings. Every stolen artifact represents lost knowledge. Every looted site is a crime against history. Nigerian authorities, international organizations, and archaeologists have been fighting to protect Nok sites and recover stolen artifacts. It's an ongoing battle between preservation and profit. But beyond the artifacts themselves, what does the Nok culture mean for us today? First, it challenges old stereotypes about African history. The Nok culture proves that advanced civilizations flourished in sub-Saharan Africa thousands of years ago, creating art, developing technology, and building complex societies. Second, it reminds us how much history we've lost. The Nok culture left no written records. If not for those accidental discoveries by tin miners, we might never have known they existed. How many other African civilizations disappeared without leaving any trace we've yet discovered? Third, it shows the importance of preserving archaeological sites. Every looted artifact, every destroyed site, is knowledge lost forever. The past belongs to all of humanity, not to wealthy collectors. Fourth, it connects modern Nigerians to their ancient heritage. In the town of Nok and throughout central Nigeria, people take pride in knowing their homeland was once the center of an advanced ancient civilization. And finally, it inspires wonder. These mysterious sculptures, gazing at us across 2,500 years, remind us that humans have always created, always innovated, always sought to express something profound about existence. The Nok people may be gone. Their language may be forgotten. Their cities may have crumbled to dust. But their art remains. And through it, they speak to us still. So this is the story of the Nok culture. A civilization that mastered iron in ancient Africa. That created terracotta masterpieces rivaling any ancient art. That lasted over 1,500 years, longer than most empires in history. And yet, they remain one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. We don't know their language. We don't know their origins. We don't know how they organized their society. And we don't know why they disappeared. But perhaps that's fitting. Perhaps some mysteries are meant to endure, to remind us that history is vast, that we've forgotten more than we remember, and that beneath the soil of Africa lie countless untold stories waiting to be discovered. The next time someone asks you about ancient civilizations, tell them about the Nok. Tell them about the terracotta heads found by a tin miner in 1943. Tell them about the African iron masters who changed history. Tell them that 2,500 years ago, in the heart of Nigeria, a people lived who created beauty, mastered technology, and built something that would echo through millennia. Their name was almost lost to time. But we remember them now. We remember the Nok. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, let me know in the comments which ancient civilization I should explore next. Should we venture to the kingdom of Kush? Uncover the mysteries of Great Zimbabwe? Or discover another forgotten empire? The past is calling. And there are so many more stories to tell. Until next time, this has been a journey back to ancient Africa.